know. I wasn't real excited about it.
I don't know. I can try again.
Yeah. I should have had veggies.
Here, I'll just do it this way. I'll save it out. I'll save it. Okay. Okay, and we need to.
Are we recording?
Yeah, you don't feel.
All right, we are going to go ahead and get started. Thank you, everyone, for being here today. I know things have been really crazy with everything going on right now, so I just want to welcome back our returning instructors. So thank you again for being on the bench.
Yeah.
And I also want to welcome our new instructors that will be observing in an effort to be teaching at some point. So Abby from Minnesota, and then Nellie will be assisting with our Palatine efforts, and then Linda here in the Wisconsin office. So welcome to it.
Yay.
All right. So really quickly, who we have in the room here? Can we just shout out who we have here?
I don't know if she's Amy Wangeren,
Jenny,
Carrie,
Linda,
Linnell, Kim,
Maureen, Rob,
Nellie.
Lindsay Hoffman, Jill Allen, new instructional design.
Perfect. And in our Plymouth office, who do we have there?
Are we muted? Oh.
Wendy, right here.
Abby, woohoo, Deb,
Carol.
Hello. And then
Kendra's dialing in.
Kendra's dialing in. Okay. And then who else do we have on the phone?
I'm Scott Paulson.
Hi, Scott. Of course it is.
Hi.
It's a very distinct voice.
It's like a movie announcer.
Anyone else on the phone?
Kate. It looks like Kate's here, but she's on mute maybe.
Okay. Well, again, thank you, everyone. I'm going to turn it over to Lindsay. We got a pretty intensive agenda here. So Lindsay's going to talk about some changes to the online portion of our certification program.
Do you put the agenda up?
So Jill and I are here for about the first 10 minutes or so just to talk about, pHR-sPHR is going to kick off here the webinar version in Minnesota, and APHR is shortly around that time frame as well. pHR-sPHR is 12 weeks, APHR is 7 weeks, and so pHR-sPHR is usually done in Minnesota. We are going to keep that right now for the first quarter, or the first half of the year in the GoToWebinar platform. Carol Hunt in Minnesota is going to be kind of our webinar producer for those pieces, with Christine Chapman being kind of a backup if she's not available. So we just wanted to make sure that you knew that we're going to consistently keep the GoToWebinar license right now. We're potentially going to make a shift later in the year, but right now we're going to keep we're going to go status quo in the Minnesota office with Carol and Christine kind of being the producers for those pieces. That does mean that Carol and Christine will be responsible for sending out those links every week and for all of those communications that they need. So if you guys do have questions about that or need any additional, I know Christine's done it in the past, so she should have all of the knowledge, but if there's any additional questions on that, let myself or Jill know and we'll make sure we follow up with you. Additionally, APHR is going to be done out of Wisconsin. And so we are going to keep that in GoToWebinar is what we're going to do. It was initially in ReadyTalk, but we're going to go away from ReadyTalk for all of our delivery options. It's going to be in GoToWebinar this year. And we are going to tag team that producing as needed, mostly myself, but Jill is going to be kind of tagging in as needed for those pieces. So for all things certification for Q1, we're staying in GoToWebinar. Q2 might be different, or Q3, I guess, whenever we launch the fall version of these, might be different, where we're going to switch to our platform for all things training, which is Adobe Connect. Right now we have some licensing issues where we only have one license available. So we're working at making that purchase, getting all the right people trained up on that. So just as a summary, I and Jill will be doing the communication and the producing role in Wisconsin. Carol and Christine will do the pieces for pHR-sPHR out of Minnesota. Anything I missed? Nope, I think that's good. So outside of that, I do want to recognize that Jill is here. She is new, so give her some grace as she takes on some of the new pieces of this. But we're really excited to have her. She is going to own all of things webinar going forward, and we're hoping to have her up to speed hopefully by the end of Q1 into Q2. So if you can, or if you do have questions, try filtering them through Jill and see if she can handle them, and she will reach out to me as needed. But I think that's all things e-learning. Does anybody have questions about how that's going to work, or who's going to handle what, and all those things?
Not right now.
Wow.
Amy, is there a schedule for the pHR webinars?
No, not for this meeting.
I can talk offline.
Okay.
Because I think it's.
Yeah.
All right.
Can we welcome Jill? So thank you. Awesome. She's already doing really well with managing the schedule and understanding that we have all of these moving parts in terms of webinars. So we're really happy to have her. So
Yeah.
Sounds great. Thank you, guys. All right, we are going to turn it over to Amy to give an update from HRCI regarding some marketing materials.
Okay, so I'm just going to do this really quickly because this is really kind of ancillary to everyone's job, but I think it's important for us to be united just in terms of the alliance that we do share with HRCI. And many of you most of you know, but maybe not everyone knows that when HRCI and SHRM split and SHRM went on their own way about 5 years ago to create their own certifications, HRCI was actively seeking other HR organizational partners to create alliances with, and the EAA, of which MRA is a part of, became one of their key alliances. So anyway, so they continually come back to us, as MRA being one of the larger EA organizations, they come to us for assistance. So Jenny and I are privileged to be able to speak into some of the pieces that they're creating that end up on our website, they end up on the EAA website. We actually help to feed that for the larger EAA. So I just wanted to share some of the pieces really quickly, just for the purposes of information for this group, to show you that HRCI is very thoughtful about continuing to move our alliance forward. All of our folks who are currently certified, if you're a member of MRA, in your 3-year recertification cycle, you can earn up to 12 free recertification credits just for being a member of MRA. For those of you who have your SPHR, 9 of those are HR credits, 3 of those are SPH, or the business credits, which, as we all know, are golden. So we're all excited for that. If you're obviously PHR, you get all 12 of them within the HR realm. We also offer through the Alliance a $50 exam fee discount for the APHR, the PHR, or the SPHR. There are instructions that I'll show you shortly. You don't have to memorize any of this. It's all FYI. But our members who are coming to us to get certified, and even non-members, can take advantage of this $50 exam discount. There's a code that is in the FAQs here. And then we have, we're the only alliance within HRCI that has its own concierge. So Nella Dieza is our concierge. She is phenomenal. She's so responsive. She is absolutely elbow to elbow with us, partnered with us to try to get this, to keep our alliance strong and to keep our members well served. So we're really grateful to have her. So this was one of the examples of a collateral piece that HRCI will provide to us. It'll actually go on our new website once we are up and running. Jenny and I also, these are not the edited versions, but Jenny and I also shared some feedback with them with regard to recertification instructions, how you actually go in and put in those 12 free recertification credits, different timeframes and things like that. So that will go onto our website as well once it's all up and running. Here's another piece that will go onto our website. They've actually taken one of our ideas to let's talk to 2 different audiences. There are those who want to get certified, and that there are those who want to stay certified. So they are really responsive to some of our ideas. And these are for the get certified. This is again the unedited copy, but here's the get certified piece, and here's the stay certified piece. And just because this comes up at least twice a year, I feel like HRCI sends out a different promo code to say, hey, like Black Friday, they sent out a $75 off coupon. They will not allow double dipping, so we will always want to give our members the $75 promo code and tell them to, use the $50 promo code only if they don't have the $75 available. So that might be up and coming with Black Friday. Well, not Black Friday, but who knows, like some sort of spring special might be coming up. I was thinking Good Friday. They might have a Good Friday. Anyway, they have a couple other collateral pieces that didn't really pertain to the EAA per se, so I wasn't really that interested in it unless they want to talk about our, they do have collateral pieces that just talk about what differentiates them from SHRM. But as all of you are aware, because we are an HR organization, we don't advocate one certification over the other. We happen to have a really powerful alliance with HRCI, so there's a lot of great things to tout there, but we're not exclusive with them. If people have SHRM certification, we will support that as well. You all know we've tried very hard the last 5 years, some of you know more than others, how hard we've tried to launch SHRM certification with very little success. We have a wait list going on right now. Numbers continue to climb. We might be getting to a point where we can offer that again, but for now, we're just kind of referring out to partner organizations that are doing that as part of their daily routine. Kim.
So speaking of the marketing communications, on our website, and I don't know if this is a website question or a HRCI question, but pricing information is not out there. And I remember a question on this actually today on the hotline where they were asking, how do we know what the pricing is for the e-learning piece of it? So
for the pHR-sPHR webinar that doesn't have a price? Okay, we need to fix that.
So I just wanted to clear
It's
it
not
up.
loaded in Salesforce, that's why.
Okay.
So website always pulls from Salesforce, so if it's not in Salesforce, it doesn't exist. So that's where the holdup is.
Okay.
Okay.
Yep, once that gets fixed, it'll be on the website.
Yeah, but the pricing is in the catalog, so you can pull a catalog and pull it from there.
Is it in the catalog?
It's in the very back. Pricing's now removed. It's been removed
It's
from
different
It's in the
from
very
the-
back of the catalog.
Okay, that's good to know.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Thanks for asking. So anyway, really cool opportunity to continue to promote our alliance and the benefits in our alliance, and all of that will go onto the website when it comes back from HRCI as being it's finalized. So thank you to Jenny for helping me edit those.
Perfect. Any questions from anyone either on the phone or in either office? All right, well then we are just going to keep moving on here. So a couple of things related to HRCP. So HRCP, for those of you who are new to this process, they are the vendor that we partner with that provide the resources in terms of the preparation books and materials and slides to help us in our prep courses for our participants. And so every year they send out, so there's 5 books based on, what are we calling it, the body of HR knowledge under HRCI. And so these 5 books that the participants get are for each of those bodies of knowledge. And so those, every year they kind of go through that and they make some revisions and or additions. This year it was pretty minor since we had some pretty significant changes last fall. So one of the documents that I handed out or put in the attachment on the meeting invite is that list of those changes, which Amy has up here. So you can, see for your areas that you typically teach, perhaps what was revised or added. So nothing major, but just wanting to get that in front of everyone. And Rob, I know we're not talking APHR today, but there's also APHR changes on there as well. So any questions about that? All right, the other thing is that we have been working with HRCP as those of us who have taught know that when it comes to the materials, that there is not multiple choice questions in the materials. So we have discussion questions at the end of different chapters that are kind of open-ended that participants can look at and see, but they don't have a lot of medical multiple choice questions infused in the books for our participants. That is something that, and nor have those been included in the PowerPoint slides that they provide us in which we teach from with our students. And so we've been kind of pushing, Amy's been kind of pushing the envelope there to get more assistance. And so last fall, we saw the start of that in trying to get some of those questions infused into the PowerPoints. And they were much more helpful in giving us more for the remaining chapters. Like I think we started in chapters 1 and 2, and then we went back to the table and said, can we get some more for all of the remaining segments? So when we get to what those PowerPoints look like now, Deb's going to kind of give a highlight about that. But I just want you to know that since we're using their materials, we're getting PowerPoint questions from them that are in alignment from their content, and we can shore up like, this is where you find this question on this page number in the book, because that's what we're teaching from. So Deb's going to talk a little bit more about that.
And I just want to say thank you to Maureen and Linnell for putting up with the chaos that was last fall. And truly, it really did. It reached a breaking point where we went back to HRCP and we said, you need to support us. We've been asking for years and years for more support. So they really did come through at that point, but I had to probably come with tears and all of that, like big drama. But truly, I think the end result is like, where we need to be. So.
Perfect. Just really quickly, the location of the PowerPoint slides. So Deb has finalized those, and we have them in 2 spots. And I just have those links included in the meeting invite, so I'm not gonna, we have them on the Q drive just because that's where we have traditionally housed much of the certification materials. So there's a spring 2019 folder. If you're used to seeing that, again, that link is in the meeting invite. And then in addition, we have it saved on the K drive because we all know we can't access the Q drive when we're teaching. So it's on the Conference Center Temporary Workspace drive. There's a pHR-sPHR 2019 folder that's out there. Any questions about that so far?
Are you going to actually open these with Deb? Not yet. Okay.
Not yet.
So this is just where they are in the conference center temporary workspace.
Yes. Okay. One other thing, again, just because I think it's a good reminder for everybody, but also because we have some new folks joining us, that the HRCP, we as instructors have certain access to the HRCP website. So a couple of things, our students have, as part of what they pay for the prep class, they get the prep class, they get the books that come from HRCP, they get flashcards, they get access to the HRCP website where they can take practice exams and tests. So that's all what comes for the student. For the instructors, we can go on to the HRCP website and we have access to your student population and what practice tests or exams that they are taking and how successful they have been in that. And so that might be something that you take a look at before, as you're teaching your particular course, how your students are doing. Is anybody taking these exams? Is anyone not? Do we need to make sure that they're doing that? But just know that that is something that you have access to. And please correct me, fellow instructors, do we also get access to those tests and so forth as an instructor? I know as a participant I have, but as an instructor we can see those sample tests as well. So
I'll just go there quickly. Just so.
Perfect, yeah, so Amy is navigating there. Do you need, so you have yours?
I do. So
okay.
Do you want to explain? So everyone should have their login already?
Yes, so everyone and the only person that now that I think might be outstanding is Abby. So Abby, I can connect with you offline, but I know I worked with, and I apologize for that, I worked with Nellie and Linda in terms of getting an access code. So
Wendy needs one too.
Who needs one?
Wendy Lindbergh.
Yeah,
Okay.
I don't think I have one.
All right, so Wendy.
I don't think so.
You guys can you access the website? Have you tried before? Okay.
Yeah.
All right, you know what? I will just look into this for everyone to make sure that you do have access to the site, and you're not going to have access to all classes. So Nellie, for example, will have access to Palatine scores. Rob will have Palatine scores. The Wisconsin instructors will get Wisconsin participants. Minnesota will get Minnesota participants.
Right. So in this drop down, like I have access to everybody, but in the drop down, you would say, oh, it may just be one thing that shows up, or you might have multiple years, so you would just pick the most recent one. And then you can actually see per student who's gone in, and how they've done, how much time they've spent, what their attempts were, what their percentages are, and those folks too who haven't spent any time. And not that we've ever called anyone out in class, but it just is an extra tool. I don't think we've really exploited it to date, but just to say, hey, is there an opportunity for people to be, are they in it? Like Linnell, maybe by week 3, if nobody's in it, it's like, all right, it's time. It's time to start getting into the multiple choice questions because now you're in more of a routine. So this is where that information is. So I don't want to see anybody break a sweat over this. This is not a big deal. Jenny will make sure everybody gets up and running. And if you want us, either Jenny or I, to walk you through this, happy to do it.
Right, and then can you just show them where those sample tests would be for the new folks on the line? So under tests, so this is where there's different forms, and one of the things that they did include is that there's a sample test now for SPHR questions only. I don't know if you guys have seen that lately, but as you're going along here, there's a couple comprehensive tests and then broken down by each unit. So again, the 5 books, Form A, Form B, and then SPHR specifically.
SPHR focus right here, SPHR focus here.
Yeah. So that's what your participants are seeing. Or have access to. Any questions about the HRCP
And that's APH.
website?
Jenny, the access code, we only need to enter that the first time we go in, correct? Okay.
Yeah, thank you, Amy. It's been a while. Sure.
Then you're in.
Sure.
Try it.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Anyway, and I will say, the interesting thing about HRCP, most of us grew up using the SHRM learning system, so HRCP's, well, except for Minnesota, they've always had HRCP, but for Wisconsin, that's been a big segue to a new vendor, and they use these books in college settings as well, which is why they have so many discussion questions and not the multiple choice questions that we appreciated from the SHRM learning system. So they will very much advocate that they've got very robust multiple choice question options, but they all are online. And now they're part of our PowerPoints, which is really good because we want to make sure people are, as much as they're learning, they're flexing that testing muscle and making that stronger for the exam. So if people are saying, why don't the books have any multiple choice questions, just refer them to HRCP Online, where there are hundreds of multiple choice questions.
So Jenny, I've got 2 quick questions. This is Linnell. On the HRCP website, are they also including resources? So
Where are those?
laws?
Do you know?
Yes, so if you go to instructor tab to the far right, and then if you go to view instructor downloads, now these are things that I have also saved on the Q drive in the spring 2019 folder, just where everything is listed. So basically if you did a download for, which I'm not going to have you do right here, for the pHR-sPHR, those materials are simply, well, go ahead and do that, I'm sorry.
Here?
Yes.
These are the PowerPoints?
Those are going to be the PowerPoints, but we don't want to use those PowerPoints because Deb has made additions. Like, again, these are their standard ones. Deb has added, with the activities and with the questions, but that's typically how we get them every year, and then we have to enhance them every year, which Deb has been very helpful in working on. They do combine all of the discussion questions if you wanted to access that for each of the various units.
Oh, okay.
So I know the instructors have always had access to this. I'm wondering, last year we made the request that participants have access not to this, but to the list of legislative summaries and laws, and there might have been a third thing, and they did that last year. I'm wondering if they're continuing that this year.
I don't know if I'm
Yes,
checking
it
that
is.
to
We
make
only
sure.
see the instructor profile, so I'd be interested to see if it's on the
The student.
participant profile, like in a resources tab.
Right. I will follow up on that because
Okay.
I remember there was some problems with that
Yes, there
access
were.
part. So we don't want that to happen again. So I will double check on the download piece and then I'll send out some communication to everyone.
But yeah, because they're right here, to your point, the legislative summaries and the court case summaries, and we did ask. That was another thing we got done last fall.
Oh, yes. So that was my one question. What was my second question on this? It'll come back to me.
Okay.
Perfect. Okay.
Do they still have that app? Remember last
HRCP?
fall, that app that the participants got the instructions for to download the app? It just created a lot of chaos for people and it didn't work.
Is that an HRCP app?
Yeah.
Because I usually tell my students about the Upward Mobility app, which I think we have a link in the K drive that's not tied to HRCP, but it is an app for the HRCI test.
I'm trying to, I don't.
Yeah, no, in Palatine, there's a link to some app that you download to your phone.
Okay.
That, first of all, it was hard to download, but then it didn't work.
And,
Okay,
okay.
I'm gonna try that now.
And we think it was an HRCP app. HRCP.
Either that or it was HRCI.
Okay.
Got the two mixed up. I think it might have been HRCI.
It's HRC.
Yeah.
HRCP doesn't come up.
No.
Okay, so Amy is investigating that. We'll see if we can
Okay,
come
go
up
back
with
to the
something
agenda.
related to that. All right, then I am gonna turn it over to Linnell about all things orientation.
Yeah, I forgot I was even on the agenda, so apologies, this would be really short, but I remembered what my other question was. So you, Jenny, had mentioned that multiple choice questions will be in the PowerPoint slides. So when participants ask us, hey, are those the same questions I'm gonna see online? Is the answer yes, or maybe, or no, they're different?
Correct. That is what we have been told from HRCP, that they pulled those from a different bank, wherever that was from, so they shouldn't be duplicative of what they already have access to.
Okay, great.
Right?
Okay,
Correct.
Yes.
all right. Okay.
Wait, say that, I just need to understand that again. So that's the different bank that's online.
Correct.
So the questions that we're previewing, or that we're showing during the PowerPoints, but might they show up on the test?
Probably not, no, because might there be a question like it
Yes,
somehow?
for sure.
Perhaps, but, you know, HRCI is the test writer, so chances are, so the questions that we provide to them and they have access to are written from our vendor, which is not the test writer per se, but it's the best to like.
It's the old SHRM learning system, essentially, HRCP.
No.
Well,
It's different, very different.
it's similar in terms of they're both a vendor.
Right.
I would say, as Amy said, SHRM was more sophisticated in that process. HRCP maybe not as sophisticated. At the end of the day, all the practice questions that people can get their hands on through various sources are likely not going to be an exact indication of what those, yes, because they're not, none of these other parties are the actual test creator, designer.
I think that's a great explanation. Yep, so you practice,
Right.
but just know that they're not an exact.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. I actually thought that was originally your question, and that's why I got tripped up a little bit, so thank you.
Yeah, you're right though, under the old SHRM system, some of those questions were actually verbatim on.
Yeah, I know.
So,
Yeah.
no, that's not true anymore. This one.
Okay, so what am I talking about again? Okay, I don't one of the things, yeah, exactly. I know one of the things that I committed to and I will do is update the orientation PowerPoint slides for those that are kicking off the different sessions. So self-serving, one is me. So, and then Kendra, you're also kicking off. And then, Rob, are you doing that in Palatine? Okay. So, so I will be updating this, by the end of this week, the orientation slides to just reflect any changes in 2019, and that they're all up to date, so that I will be able to have that available to the kickoff folks. What else did I commit to, Jenny?
Oh, do you want to just give for the new folks or a reminder to the old folks, that first night how we invite all the instructors? I'm saying old folks in a good way. I didn't mean age, I meant like, you know.
No need to backtrack.
I myself am an old folk as well, so.
I'm teasing you.
Night one, typically what happens night one and how we like to have everyone join in what you tend to review and cover.
Yeah, okay, so for the kickoff orientation, we invite the other instructors who are going to be part of the prep class to come if they can, so that the participants can just kind of meet them, and you can do a quick intro. That helps because then when you are teaching class later, you don't have to kind of quote unquote waste time doing any reintroductions of the participants, any reintroductions of yourself, because that's already done in the orientation. So that we found that that saves us a little time, and it's nice for the participants to see that they'll have a variety of instructors that will be helping them with their class. And so, so it's really short. We just do it in the beginning, so it doesn't take up a lot of time, and it's just a really quick kind of like intro of yourself and maybe a little tidbit nugget, something to kind of motivate or inspire them. But there's nothing you actually have to prep for to show up for that. But it's just nice if you can come. That's a good way to introduce you to the class.
What is the date for that? No, I know it's in March, isn't it?
February 19th.
It's in 2 weeks.
Have you put that in the
okay,
calendar? Is that in the calendar, that invite, the kickoff meeting invite?
Probably not.
No, I got that from Jenny's meeting notes.
You know what? I will make sure that that invite is sent out for that first night for all locations.
That'd be great.
What's the question?
And that's at 5.
Oh, I think I was just wondering.
I think this is in the-
Oh, it's on that, yeah, it's on. Jenny's invite.
Right.
I think this is in the invite, Kim.
Yeah.
It is.
So for Minnesota, their orientation is from 6 to 8 on day one, and for Wisconsin, it's 5:30 to 7:30. Day one. And then for Palatine, it's built into the first day session. So I'll make sure to send out a meeting invite just to remind folks about everyone show up to welcome participants.
And it's during the day. And
Yeah, it's all day.
generally you, then you probably wouldn't need to do that, you know,
Mhm.
Palatine.
Yeah.
I'll be.
And I guess this is Linnell again. The other thing I'll mention too is that the orientation slides, what we've done in the past and will continue to do is have that available to participants after the fact. We're not printing off the slides. There's quite a few that we go through in the orientation, but we tell them that they can access, if they wanted to, they can access it and print it off if they want. And so we'll make that available on the website. They can do that.
So Linnell, this is Amy, I'm online on the MRA's website, I'm logged in and I'm searching for the pHR-sPHR webpage and don't see it.
Right, it's hidden. For this class?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So we haven't flipped that on yet.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Okay. But that's where,
But it's all like there queued up, ready to go. Cassie has it ready to go. We just have to give her all the info and she just turns it on.
okay, and that'll be on for all the instructors too. So if you're
Yep.
looking for, hey, where are all those extra free or nominal costing practice tests, and
Yep.
where are the
All of
PowerPoints, and ultimately where are all of the recordings that are coming
Yes.
from the online, all of that will populate online.
Correct.
Okay.
So all of that will be available right now. It's ready. It's just we haven't flipped it on because it's not populated yet. We don't want to show stuff that doesn't look like anything there. So once we have this buttoned up this week, we'll flip that on and then we'll give all the instructors the link so they know exactly where to go for it, but then the participants will get that link too. So, morning.
So
That was cute. I was like, I took a breath. You're like.
Sure, right, yeah, I can try to get it
all right.
to the K-drive.
So Deb, can you give an update on the instructor PowerPoints?
Yes, I'd be happy to. So I just took a look at the PowerPoints. I know last year when we were teaching, we were doing it on the fly, and some of the questions either there were some questionable answers, and so some of our participants were challenging us in class about what the answers were and whether or not they were right or wrong. And then some of them were just placed kind of oddly in the different PowerPoints, and so you might go over, a concept, and then the multiple choice question would be the very next thing, and it was kind of a no-brainer that you just talked about what the answer was, and so it was kind of anticlimactic. HRCP gave us a bank of a bank of questions. So what I did was I pulled out all of the questions that were added kind of on the fly last year, and I added in only the HRCP questions. But before I added them in, I went to find them in the book, and I added, if you go to the next slide, oh, there you go, where the answer is. And so there's a reference to the page number, the section that it's in. So if someone's questioning the answer to that question, you can go right to the HRCP book, and you'll be able to find the answer and why it is what it is.
Yay.
So there's fewer questions, and I did it so that we weren't answering the questions at the end, but that we were kind of pre-testing them, because they really should be reading the content before they come to class. And so the questions only relevant to the section that we're going to be teaching are the questions that you'll be asking. It won't just be a hodgepodge. And so might sometimes be 10 questions at the beginning. There might sometimes be 5 questions. It just depended on how many questions were in that section that we were provided by HRCP. Yes.
Why is there like a footer in the upper left corner? There's the word footer.
Well, it won't, I don't know that. We might need to get our creative team involved. But I don't know that. But when we put it on the view, the regular normal view, it doesn't show that. Only when it's in that other view.
Well, I think it might be, we'd have to think about what we're going to load. You know what I mean? Like if we're loading.
Let's load it with all the answers.
That's what I'm thinking.
So I tried that, but I really am not that savvy on PowerPoint. And so I spent a lot of time trying to figure that out, and then I thought I would just leave it this way and let the creative people do their thing.
So so I'm clear, when we say load, do we mean loaded on for our view or for the participants' view?
Participants.
Okay, 'cause typically, just in the past, and this, we're good either way, we've provided the PowerPoint decks out there, no notes, and I don't believe that they contained the questions, the multiple choice questions and the activities and things like that. That has not traditionally been the case, not to say that that has to be the case. So I just want to make sure we're clear what we think, and I can do it either way.
I'm going to say, just because I know what HRCP would say, I think we should put a PDF of the PowerPoints, multiple choice questions. Like they consider that they're proprietary. That's what sets them apart from other vendors. So I think if we can just put out the PDF of the PowerPoint slides without MRI's embellishments, I think they would be comfortable with that. That was their issue with even sharing out the case studies and things like that. That's our proprietary information if that ever get out to the public.
Although these participants are paying, we're paying them access to it, so that's my argument back. And I'd be okay with that, except we'll have to have a response to participants who say, but I want these to practice from. You're giving me no, where can I, and before HRCP said, fine, give us $100 and we'll give you these, which was kind of a lame answer, but that's what they did. And of course, no one was like, I'm already paying $1,000 to take the, I'm going to pay $100 for this. And we were just like, well, I guess you got to show up to class and practice with us. But they wanted these like hard copies somewhere. So we were thinking, well, if we gave you the question but not the answer, that's at least giving you something to practice. But the answer, I guess you'll have to show up to class for or something. We just need to have a response.
Yeah, I agree, because people wanted those last year.
Well, let's check with HRCP and see what they say.
Okay.
If she had a good breakfast, she might say yes.
Okay. Excellent.
I'll call her first thing in the morning.
So can I ask a question?
Please.
Do they not have access to the reviews that I'm looking at on the HRCP website? Because isn't that the answer then? If they want practice, they go to the HRCP online.
It's not the exact same questions, but they're still getting to practice. They don't have to practice with these exact same questions.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, if that's what our standard response is going to be to them, that's fine. We just need to all be on the same page because it will come up and you'll get some hot-headed participants that think that that's not fair. So we just have to be able to stand firm that that's that's going to be our response.
So we'll start with HRCP first and find out if they're okay with us sharing these questions. And if they are, then we'll do a PDF of the questions. It'll be a PDF of the questions plus the PowerPoint, all of the content. So Deb, this is Amy. How many is there a certain number of questions that you've done per PowerPoint unit, or does it vary based on the content that you had?
As I recall, it was about 20 questions per unit.
Okay.
Hey.
So for unit 1, they might be like, maybe there's 12 on the front end and 8 on the back end, but in total, there will be 20 practice questions for unit 1.
Right.
Good. Thank you for doing that.
Oh, thank you so much. So much. We could give you a hug right now.
The other thing that I did do though is there were some activities in the different units, and so I did pull those activities over so they are in the unit. So I'm looking at Wendy here. In the compensation unit, there's a Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, right? Is that what it's called? Or Who Wants to Be a Comp? Yeah. I don't know what it's called anymore, but that pulled over from the 2018 fall content perfectly. So it's still in there. The only thing that I would say, if any of those activities were yours and you owned them and we put them in there, if you're going through them or if you would go through them before you teach them, if there's any content in there that's outdated or shouldn't be in there, let us know so we can take it out of there.
Okay, as they're prepping, that would go to you then, Deb, correct?
Yeah.
I think Susan Rosinski updated the answers and questions for the Jeopardy. So I don't know who would take ownership of that then. So
Whoever's teaching that.
Whoever's teaching it.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, I'm just looking to see where's Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. Do you have a page for that?
Halfway through. It's after the first section, so whatever page that is, 80, what is that page?
Run down, you'll see it's pretty.
I don't have one here.
We have the schedule.
Yeah, calendar.
Yeah. I think the page numbers are on there. So after, it should show on the slide page 117 or so.
Oh, here, right here, okay.
Oops.
So okay.
Nice. So if you're teaching, whoever really has that knowledge, if you're teaching it and you feel like, yeah, this is kind of outdated, it doesn't really make sense anymore, it's not necessarily straight from the HRCP content that I'm aware of.
Okay.
I just have MRA's logo, but not all of them.
Okay, so good summary that in terms of as you're reviewing your content, if you see something funky or you're like, this is outdated or this isn't going to be cool or whatever, then notify Deb and then she'll make a change to the master record so that it impacts everybody's session, not just yours. So.
Can I just ask a random question? This is Abby. I noticed when you were quickly just going through the different slides, it looked like there was MRA logos on some of the slides on the bottom right.
Ooh. I'm going back.
But there's right there.
Yeah.
Do we want that? Do we want both of our logos?
I think it's okay, just from the standpoint that it identifies this as MRA content versus HRCP.
Mm-hmm.
Is it consistently applied though?
Because we're that key from EHR. She uses that in EHR.
Yeah, we can take it out if that's fine. I don't think it matters.
I'm sorry, I just noticed it. And
yeah, no, I was looking.
I didn't even notice it. I looked at it for days.
Of course.
I like that. If you could take the logo out, that would be awesome.
Oh my gosh, I'll try. I'm going to have to talk to Sarah. Sarah!
Okay, anything else on the PowerPoint?
No. Deb, anything else about the PowerPoints?
I don't think so. Like I said, the only questions that we have in that weren't added activities are now the HRCP. So I checked and double checked and triple checked to make sure that I had the answers right, and they were in the right sections. So, but I would look at them before you're teaching them just to make sure you don't have any questions The other thing, when we were talking about the test questions or the practice questions, in the fall when I was teaching, one of the things that our participants in the fall said was what was most helpful for them was to, yes, use the HRCP for content, really understanding the content, but what really benefited them after they felt like they knew the content was taking the HRCI exam. So really encourage your participants to do that, because they felt like those HRCI practice tests were a little more relevant to the type of questions or how those questions might be worded.
Those are on the HRCI website. When you sign up, you get a package, you pay for your exam.
Gotcha, okay. So
I had a participant tell me last year, don't buy the 2, because if you buy the 2, it's the same questions in a different order.
Oh.
And she was pretty mad about that.
Oh, sure. I've heard that too.
So just by the
Can you
one.
take it more than once, though?
I think it's active for 180 days.
Oh.
I remember that now too, when I took mine.
But yeah,
That sounds clear.
I think it's $50.
Good to know.
There's some talk to Nora about that.
I don't disagree.
What was that, Amy?
I said we should talk to our concierge about that.
Yeah. All right, any other questions before we move on to the instructor schedule? And really, so if no questions, mindful of our 7 minutes remaining here. I included the schedule in the meeting invite for all locations, including those folks that are observing. So thank you, Deb, for shoring up the pages and making sure all is aligned with the slides and so forth. And I think we're good to go there. So the instructor is then responsible for covering whatever those allotted pages are and whatever those corresponding slides would be. And the slides typically have the page numbers on them. And that's kind of how we keep track of where one starts and where the other picks back up. So.
And this might be a conversation that we have at the meeting, because there's one date for the Waukesha that we have to figure out.
Right.
So I think if we can just talk briefly afterwards, and if we want to do that.
Yeah.
Can you put this on
You're
the,
funny.
Jenny, can you put this on the Q drive?
Yeah, she's queued in. Yeah, it's on the queue as well. So the schedule is located on the Q drive for everyone in the main spring 2019 folder, in addition to it being in the meeting invite. So,
Sorry.
that's all right. So the study hall pilot, Kendra, are you on the phone?
She just texted me and said that she wasn't able to join.
Okay, no worries. So the study hall, as I understand it, and Amy, feel free to jump in here, is that traditionally Minnesota has held a study hall option it was sort of a last add-on session after the course was completed. It was a voluntary session that if participants wanted to come to the study hall format, they could. I don't know that there was necessarily a formal agenda at this study hall, but it was really an opportunity for everyone to get together, and that if there were outstanding questions or if they wanted to practice something or just to kind of talk through things as a group, that they could do that. Does anyone know that to be any different? Or Minnesota, would you guys have any additional insights to that?
No, that's how it was. The way it was teed up is bring all your questions, spend your time studying, bring all your questions, and we will have all of the subject matter experts or the people that were here throughout the sessions available to answer the questions that they have.
Okay, perfect. So Wisconsin has not hosted a study hall option. And what we were thinking about doing is doing a pilot this year and having Kendra be the host up in Minnesota with the team up there, or we could also look at a bench down here as well. That could be determined, but ultimately extend that invitation to all of the prep classes or participants to join via life size so that they can partake in this I think what is normally a 2-hour session. So, and C, bring kind of the best of all worlds together and have that experience. Again, optional if they choose to do that versus mandatory, and try it as a pilot to see how that could potentially work.
Well, and with life size, couldn't they even do it from home if they had a link?
True.
So
Yeah.
they wouldn't even have to come to MRA, like Palatine wouldn't have to come to the
You get a
office.
lot of participation if you did that.
Yeah,
Yeah, if they
so,
can do it remotely, that'd be.
and maybe we'd have to do, so I think we should try it because Minnesota says that they get a lot of traction on it. We haven't offered it here. And rather than duplicate efforts, why don't we just see who's interested, how many people show up, and get their feedback afterwards to say, do you think that was a good use of your time?
Will that be something in the schedule that they received as a registrant, or would that be a special
I think it's an
announcement?
add-on.
It will have to be,
Particular week as a handout or something?
Mhm.
right, it would be.
Special invite that'll come from Salesforce.
Okay, there you go.
Sure.
You know, powerful.
Okay.
Last year it didn't. Let's move.
We can hear you.
Last year, we didn't get it on the calendar.
Yeah, and that we knew that it was teed up to run, and then it wasn't offered in Minnesota, and then in the interim, Tina and the registrations team was saying the reason it wasn't communicated was because we're not consistent across locations, so we do need to so that their message was offer it or don't offer it, but offer it across all locations or don't offer it across all locations. So registrations carries a lot of weight around here.
They have good ideas.
Yeah.
Right.
So, but yeah, that'll help us to, we'll pilot it and see if it's a success, and if it is, then we'll make sure it gets scheduled.
My only point was just making sure that it gets scheduled ahead of time so that they can get it on their schedule right off the bat.
Right.
Yes, absolutely. So I'll take note of that, and we'll definitely follow up and get a date and get that coordinated with them and with everyone to know what the plan is. So thank you. All right, a couple other things really, really fast here. Let's be clear. You're like, what is this? I don't know. So obviously there are other vendors that can provide HR certification prep. And one of the vendors is Distinctive HR, if you've ever heard of them. And the individual is David Seiler, and he does a lot in terms of HR certification prep. He actually has this book called The 7 Princes. And it's his 7 Princes, meaning these are, if you study these 7 ideas or these themes, then it's one way to help you master taking the exam. So we did not, of course, want to copy our friend, David Seiler.
And his book is not available for sale via Amazon. He will not release it. He will only release it if you purchase his Distinctive HR, pHR-sPHR exam prep. So even though he's had pressure from publishers to do it, he's standing firm, which is why we have it, but none of our participants could get it.
Yes. Yes. So the objective was to come up with our own version of this 7 Princes. And so what we came up is this tagline of let's be clear, tips for HR certification success. And I'm looking at this little chart over here for Minnesota. It's over back by the flip chart paper right now, where it emphasizes these 5 points: that communication is key, look for management buy-in and think critically, everything begins with a needs analysis and ends with evaluation, align HR with business objectives, and recognize your most important asset, people. Fundamentally, like, those are some core themes throughout this program that, as we're helping people think about the content, if we can have them think about it in this respect. So I put together a draft PowerPoint here. That's also included in the meeting invite. And I think if the group is interested, again, to perhaps pilot this and see what we think about it, how it works, how it doesn't work. So what I have in here as Amy goes along is that, again, my version of reading through this book and trying to pull out some points of what is important to emphasize. so related to communication. So you'll see kind of an overview of that. And then what I do is I have a couple of questions that get at the communication example as kind of a practice. And then it goes on to the next one, which is look for management buy-in and think critically, and then a couple of questions. So I basically put this together for all of the different layers as a starting point. So comments, thoughts, reactions from the group?
When is it used?
So that's a great question. We were thinking about, and I'd love your feedback, that it'd be important to set the stage from the very beginning with them as they're going through their prep, to really tee that off there, and then probably a reminder again towards the end of the prep session, towards the, almost to the conclusion of it, just to kind of revisit it and how we would, would we administer the whole thing at the very beginning? Would we tee off this concept and then do the questions more towards the end? I guess I'm open to ideas and thoughts about that, or from the group here. If we like this, don't like this, what do you think?
Oh, definitely like it. Yeah, for sure. That's what they always ask, especially after the first module is so tough to get through. They're like, what the heck do I need to really focus on throughout the rest of these books?
Right.
That was so hard to get through. So to give them some threads, perfect. Love it.
Okay.
Yeah, and this is stuff that when I teach, and I'm working with individual contributors in HR that don't always have the big picture in mind, is always teaching them to think of the big picture, think of the CEO's role and responsibility as relates to decision making. So this is helpful, and I think it fits very well somewhere in session one, maybe middle to end. And then I don't think it's harmful. I think it's helpful to have maybe one of these in the classroom each and every time, and then refer to it a couple times throughout the 12 weeks.
Okay.
Because it is a good reminder of how to think about these questions. Because so many of these people are going for the SPHR, they don't even know what a needs assessment is, or whatever the strategic diatribe is that I can't remember. But they haven't had to think so strategically as they will in the test.
Absolutely. Anybody else? Minnesota?
They froze.
You're frozen.
No, are we?
We're on now.
Oh, we are?
We're talking.
Oh, we're not echoing anymore. I like it. I like the concept. I agree that somewhere in the first unit is probably the best. And then I see it revisited again, probably in that study hall as a reminder. So when they're answering the questions, they're thinking about that as well.
Okay. Good feedback. Thank you. All right. Well, then we're going to trial it this year. We're going to see how that goes. I'm just going to schedule a meeting for an instructor debrief on May 20th with everyone, kind of once the spring is done, just to see what do we need to continue doing, change up doing, improve upon. There's been a lot of change since last fall to now, and so that's really the purpose of that, is just to get everyone's feedback on that for continuous improvement. So you'll see that coming. And then for the fall of 2019, and maybe that's something that we can talk more about at that debrief part on May 20th. I want to be sensitive to everyone's time here, but just looking at ways to continue to shore up the notes for new instructors, for existing instructors, as well as replacing constant contact. There's a lot of administration that happens behind the scenes for that, and doing some type of video, quick segment to have more engagement with our participants. More on a LinkedIn platform. So other things to come, we could talk about that more at the May 20th session. Any questions from anyone or anything else to add?
If we want to check out one of the books for the courses we're teaching, where will they be these days?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Where would be a good place to store them? I think is a really good
In
question.
Salesforce.
That's the right answer. If it's not in Salesforce, it doesn't exist. Okay.
So I don't know, a user-friendly place.
We have two sets, and Jenny's office is not the place to have it because she's an internal HR. We can keep them in my office. We could put them in a shared space. We could put them in the conference room closets.
wherever you put them, let us know, but I think a place where we can go
The
at any
conference
time.
center closet gets locked, right?
Yeah.
So I liked it in your office.
Okay, they can stay there, that's perfect.
Yeah.
Okay, so
And just the whole, just make sure you return and write if you've taken or return it quickly. Yeah, that's the only
Read your
thing.
library card.
So just a quick, for the Minnesota office, so we ordered 2 sets for Wisconsin, so we have 2 versions here. Palatine has their own, is it just 1 set? 1 set, and then Minnesota, I believe we also ordered, did you order 2? So that way we don't have people tripping on each other. I'm pretty sure is there 1 or 2 for Palatine? I don't remember. I think it was I think it was just 1.
Yeah.
So,
Before we go, can you confirm the book orders because they're different depending upon location and online versus classroom? So the book orders for HRCP to get to the participants, how those happen or how those will happen?
Yes, so the webinar version will be sent directly to each individual. And then the Wisconsin in-person and Minnesota in-person, we do bulk orders. So we're also going to note on the first night of the roster who gets books and who does not. Because some are retakes, some don't need them, whatever.
And
Palatine is 4-day intensive. So they will get their books ahead of time so they can come to class.
Shipped to them directly.
Yes, directly, so that they can already be prepared with their reading.
Okay. And one thing I just wanted to say one thing because I think we take for granted the time that it takes to prep and there's new folks teaching for the first time. There's folks who've been teaching for a long time. And I just want to say thank you, number one, but I also want to say no one's expecting anyone to be an expert in the HR body of knowledge. This is it's the HR body of knowledge. No one is going to know everything about every concept or definition or law. And so I know when I was teaching in earnest, I used to reach out to MRA. You know what? That's a great question for MRA. Let's parking lot that. I mean, when things come up and you're tripped, or like validity versus reliability in the 9 pages that goes on about, you pick and choose where you want to camp. Or if the group is camping on something that's really taking them into the weeds, it's okay to stop that conversation and to say, let me get you some clarification. I know, Linnell, you've been famous for probably going back to the class to say, here's some more information to help clarify that. And I'm sure all of you have done something similar. But I guess just give yourselves some grace to say you don't have to have every answer. We have certainly come a long way from fall. Fall was supposed to be a building year. It ended up being more of a tripping year. So, but I, really did get us to some pretty impressive, it really got us to where I think we needed to be. And all of us wish it hadn't been as painful as it was for our participants and for our instructors. But at the same time, we do want to make this a great experience for the instructors and for our participants and really help them pass their exams. We want this to be easier for you. We are still working on the scripting piece of it. We would love to that would be our utopia, is actually to have every slide scripted. So if anybody wants to volunteer, raise their hand to work with Jenny on that piece of it, that might be a great summer project for us. Even if we don't get all the way there, we're making some headway to get towards that. So thanks for your patience as we build this. It takes a village. I'm counting, the number of people on the screen and in this room and the people that aren't even here. It's like close to 20 people just to run this one program, but it really is an important program and it feeds a lot of our other business because people then come back to us for recertification credits. It builds relationships because there's nothing like a national exam to bond you, right? So anyway, just give yourselves grace and just say, nobody here expects you to have all the answers. It's okay to park things and respond to them later or say we need to move on for the sake of time. And especially for those of you who are new and this might seem a little daunting. Jenny and I laugh. We have taught every module. You don't want me teaching comp or benefits. I have taught comp and benefits. So if I can do it, if Jenny can do it, we can all do that. So just want to give everybody a shot of confidence and say, you can do it. Yes, you can.
So I had comp and benefit and labor relations.
I know, Kim, you're like extra special. We were so glad when Kim joined the bench.
She probably could do all 12.
I know.
Yeah,
for sure.
So anyway, thank you. All right, anybody else before we head off? All right, well,
Thank you, ladies.
Thank you,
Thank you.
everyone. All right, we'll talk soon.
Bye.
All righty, bye-bye.